everybody, this is Joe from PrepAgent, and today I'm going to talk to you about the difference between assume and subject to, as this is an important concept that could come up on your real estate exam. The short of it is, assume means the buyer is responsible, and subject to means the seller is responsible. The buyer is assuming that loan, as opposed to subject to when the buyer is buying the property, subject to the seller being responsible for that loan. Let's get into more detail about the assumable mortgage. Imagine there's a house you love and the current homeowner has a mortgage on it. They tell you you could assume the mortgage. So what does that mean? When you assume a mortgage, you're taking over the existing mortgage from the current homeowner. You agree to make the mortgage payments just like they were doing. This could be advantageous if the mortgage terms are favorable, especially if the interest rate is low and you want to get a new mortgage. Let's go over an example of this concept. Let's say the current homeowner has a mortgage of $200,000 at an interest rate of 4%, pretty good. You decide to buy the house and take over their mortgage. You continue making the monthly payments at around $995 that they were making. Assuming the mortgage helps you avoid the hassle of applying for a new loan, especially if interest rates have increased since the original loan was taken out. This is a good deal, and you would be assuming their mortgage. Now let's talk about subject to. Remember, subject to means seller is liable. Imagine you're buying a property and the seller says they're willing to sell you the property with subject to the existing mortgage. What does that mean? When you buy a property subject to the existing mortgage, you're essentially agreeing to take over ownership of the property while leaving the existing mortgage in place. You will own the property, but the original homeowner's name will remain on the mortgage. You're responsible for making payments, but you're not legally obligated to the lender. Here's an example to help clarify this concept. The seller has a mortgage of $150,000 on the property. You decide to buy the property subject to the existing mortgage. You now own the property, but the mortgage remains in the seller's name. You start making the monthly mortgage payments, and the lender continues to receive payments as usual. If you were to default on the payments, it's the seller's credit that would be affected, not yours. So let's review the key differences between subject to and assume. So first is ownership and responsibility. With an assumption, you take over both ownership of the property and responsibility for the mortgage. With subject to, you take ownership of the property, but the original owner's name remains on the mortgage. Legal obligation. When you assume a mortgage, you become legally obligated to the lender. With subject to, you're not legally obligated, but you're still responsible for making those payments. Credit impact. If you assume a mortgage and don't make the payments, your credit can be affected. With subject to, if you fail to make the payments, it's the original owner's credit that suffers, the seller. Loan terms. Assuming a mortgage means you agree to the existing terms. Buying subject to means you keep the existing mortgage terms without officially assuming them. So let's summarize this. Assume means you take over both the ownership and responsibility of the mortgage, while subject to means you take over ownership but not legal obligation of the mortgage. Both options involve taking over a property's existing mortgage, but they differ in terms of legal responsibility and potential credit impacts. It's important to fully understand these terms and consult legal and financial professionals when considering such transactions to ensure you make an informed decision. But we're here talking about the real estate exam. So for the real estate exam, really focus on assume, buyer's liable, subject to, seller's liable. If you remember that, you'll be fine. And as always, keep it concise and keep it simple.